The Bible and Politics. So the Colorado Supreme Court did what so many liberal states have been wanting to do. They banned Donald Trump from being able to be on the ballot. This is election interference at its finest. It's not right. It's not good that people should be kept from doing what they are given the right by God to be able to do. And what is that? To be able to choose for themselves judges. We don't have a king in this nation. We have officials. We have judges who are appointed by people. That's the way we do things. God sets up kings, but he also gave Israel their ability to set up judges. And it is God who has the final say in everyone that is set up. Let's look at Deuteronomy chapter 16. We'll start there first. We're going to look at a few different scriptures today concerning God setting up kingdoms and people choosing themselves judges. Deuteronomy chapter 16, starting in verse 18, Moses is telling the people of Israel, he says, "Judges and officers shalt thou make thee in all thy gates, which the Lord thy God giveth thee throughout thy tribes, and they shall judge the people with just judgment." Our judges are failing in giving us just judgment today. How many people, if they have enough money, can get by with anything? They're taking bribes. The Bible speaks against giving out bribes or taking bribes. It speaks out against it constantly about how people have taken bribes and perverted justice. And that's exactly what happens when you take a bribe. And that's what most of our judges today are doing. There are still some good ones. I'm not going to throw them all under the bus. I'm not going to lump them all together. I don't know enough about the different ones to know the difference between one and the other, personally. But I know there are still some good judges out there. But they are supposed to judge the people with just judgment. God wants to see justice done in every nation. Not just Israel. Not just America. He wants to see justice done in every nation. Because he loves everybody. It's not his will that any should perish, but all should have everlasting life. And when we're perverting justice and refusing to let the name of God go forward and letting the sound alarm, then many people are lost and they're just doomed to hell because of a lack of knowledge. People are perishing for a lack of knowledge today. It goes on and says, "Thou shalt not wrest judgment. Thou shalt not respect persons, neither take a gift," that means a bribe. "For a gift doth blind the eyes of the wise and pervert the words of the righteous. That which is altogether just shalt thou follow, that thou mayest live and inherit the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee." I truly believe that God has given us this great nation. America is founded on so many biblical principles that no other nation has really seen before, with the exception of Israel, because they were given the law first. They were given it written in stone on 2 tables of stone, and we call them the 10 Commandments. And we tell our people today they're not even allowed to have them in a school or in a courthouse. But yet that's what our founding fathers founded our nation on, is the principles of God, his commandments. And today we're taking bribes and we're wresting judgment from the people, not allowing our people to choose their rulers. God's the one that sets up kingdoms. He's the one that sets up kings. If he's the one that set up America to be able to vote for a leader, who are we to say that America can't choose their own leaders? And they can say what they want to and try to use the 14th Amendment all they want to. And we all know that that amendment was made to keep Confederate officers from being able to take office, high office. That way they could not try to impose their ideologies that they had when they tried to break away from the Union in the first place. They didn't want them trying to continue their fight from the position of an office. Makes sense. But Trump never did anything like that. He wasn't in the Union. Or, excuse me, he was in the Union. He wasn't in the Confederacy. He wasn't alive back then. He wasn't a Confederate officer. They're just using whatever they want to and trying to twist the Constitution to make it say what they want to, when they want to, and how they want to. And this isn't a defense of Trump necessarily. Personally, I'm not a big fan of Trump anymore. When he stopped having the zeal that he had for the rights of the unborn, I lost interest in him. When he stopped having his zeal for the sanctity of marriage, I lost respect for him. See, Trump, he wants to win. And his stance on gay rights, his stance on abortion, they're strategies. That's all they are to him. He doesn't have any real conviction on it. And it's not that I want necessarily to see Trump be put back in office, but I'd a whole lot rather Trump be in office than who we got right now. We don't have many options today, people, because we don't have a man of God that'll stand up and do what's right. They are too scared to do what's right. They're too scared to stand against the evil that's coming upon this nation. They're too scared to do these things. And it's starting to really tick me off, because I want to see things go back to the way they used to be, when a man was honored in his family, when a woman was loved because she was the matriarch of her family, and she took care of her children, and she took care of her husband, and the man honored his wife and laid down his life for her and the children, and they all went to church and worshiped and served God together. You want to know why this nation's falling apart? It's because we abandoned God. And when you abandon God, you abandon hope. And that's why we're in this despicable place we're in today as a nation. Let's look at Daniel and see what he has to say before I get really riled up. And I am feeling really riled. I wish we had a good leader to choose from. I really do. One of the people that makes the most sense to me right now is Vivek Ramaswamy. And I don't even know if I've said his name right. And he's not even a Christian. He's a Hindu. But yeah, he makes more sense than a lot of the people that we have running for office right now that claim to be Christian. And they claim Christianity. They claim the name of God. They draw nigh to him with their mouth, but their heart is far from him. That's what Jesus said about the Pharisees, and that's what we see with our so-called Christian leaders today. Yes, Joel Osteen, that includes you. And Kenneth Copeland. And all you other mega-rich preachers that just want to make money and don't care about the souls of the lost. Yeah, I'm on one today. Y'all have to pardon me, excuse me. So Daniel chapter 2, verses 19 through 21 says, let's just jump down to 20. Daniel answered and said, Blessed be the name of God forever and ever, for the wisdom and might are his. And he changeth times and seasons. There is a time and a season for everything. And God chooses when that time is. It is his decision and his alone. Today we're in a season of darkness. Why are we in a season of darkness? Because we abandoned the knowledge of God. He removeth kings and setteth up kings. It doesn't matter who they ban from the ballot, who they bar from the ballot. It doesn't matter what tricks they try to play. When it all comes down to it, the man that God chooses for the job will be in the office. And if you don't like it, oh well. Biden is the man that God chose for the past 4 years. Why? Because we wanted somebody that didn't give a hoot about the commandments of God. We chose somebody that doesn't care if innocent children are murdered in the womb. As a nation, we just don't care. And you can look around and see how obvious that is. He giveth wisdom to the wise, and knowledge to them that know understanding. If he gives the knowledge to the wise, he gives wisdom to the wise, then he withholds it from those that aren't wise. You cannot gain wisdom if you don't seek after it. God said, seek and I will answer. Knock and it will be opened to you. If you want to understand God and his ways, all you got to do is open up the Bible and start seeking after him. He revealeth the deep and secret things. He knoweth what is in the darkness, and the light dwelleth with him. The light dwelleth with God. If you want light, you got to go seek it from God, because light is with God, not with us, not here on earth with men. God knows the secret things, and he reveals those secret things to those whom he will. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you I know all the secret things, but I do know one thing for certain. The path that we're on as a nation is a path of destruction. Unless we repent and turn to God and seek his face, we will be destroyed. How? I don't know. I'm not a prophet. I'm a preacher. All I can tell you is what the Bible tells me and what God leads me to say out of the Bible. What I'm telling you right now is that what we're seeing with Trump, the decisions that are being made to bar him from a ballot, well, there's going to be more decisions made like that bar us from being able to make choices for ourselves. We're already seeing it. There's a couple in Iowa. They lost their child because their child said, hey, even though I know I was born a boy, I want to be a girl now. And his parents said no. And Iowa took away their child because they would not affirm his transgender identity. Our choices are being taken from us. In the freest nation that's ever existed, we are losing our freedom. We're losing our choice. We're losing our voice. And why are we losing all this? Because we turned our back on God. We deserve what we're getting. And if you don't like it, oh well. But we as a nation have asked for exactly what we're getting today. And if you want it to change, you better start seeking God. You better start repenting. One last verse I want to read before I continue on a tirade. Because I'm getting tired of yelling. I don't usually yell like this, but boy, I am so angry. I am just angry because of the way things are going in this nation. I want it to be like it was when I was a child, when people had freedom, where you could say what you wanted to on the street without having to worry about somebody shooting you because they didn't like what you said. Because we got preachers in this nation today that are being shot for preaching the gospel. Now, I don't want to antagonize anybody or try to bring anything upon myself, but I will preach the gospel. Come hell or high water, I will preach the gospel. I am not ashamed of the gospel, and if people don't like it, oh well. Do what you want. You have to answer to God. Romans chapter 13 verse 1 says, let every soul be subject unto the higher powers, for there is no power but of God. The powers that be are ordained of God. So no, I don't like the Biden administration. I admit it. But right there, I was just told to lay down and be subject unto them. And as long as I have breath, I will continue to speak the gospel, to preach the gospel. And it don't matter what law comes about that says I can't do it, I'll still do that. But as long as the laws don't go against the ordinances of God, I am to obey them. That's one thing we have to remember as Christians. We're still subject to laws of man. But we need to make sure we pay attention to a higher power and be subject to his first. If we want to see things change in this nation, it's time for us to start getting on our knees. Maybe it's time for us to start fasting and praying. Lord knows I could use some fasting for more than just spiritual means. We've gotten so comfortable with our wealth in this nation that we just can't stand the thought of having to do without. We can't stand the thought of having to go to bed without a meal, because we've been so blessed of God, and because he has blessed us so much, we return the favor to him by turning our back on him and ignoring his statutes and his commandments. We should be ashamed, but we're not. And you know we're not. Just look at what happens every month of June. All the pride parades. We're so proud of our sin. And then we choose the leaders we choose and wonder, why is God letting this happen? And we don't even think to reflect on what we're doing.